moved out here, California, probably like 92, probably 92, 93. Moved out from Philadelphia. How I got in the truth was a brother named Hamawa. He had actually introduced me to this truth. But you know, knowing if you're from Philadelphia, where I grew up at in West Philly, it's a very highly populated brothers that's in Muslim in West Philly. So I have a lot of cousins that's you know into that, and I met him, and which was another brother introduced me to Hamawa, and he told me about the Israelites, and I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, you know, did you know the Israelites? I'm like, no, what are you talking about? So I invited the brother to the house, and what caught my eye was Deuteronomy 28. And once I got into that, my eyes sort of like opened up, and I started going into Deuteronomy 28. And he was showing me all these verses. And as he was showing me all these verses, I had a flashback of my childhood of the movie Roots. So everything sort of fit into a T with me. So when he started breaking it down to me, the more I started getting hungry about wanting to know who I was. But at the same time, even when I was a kid, you know, growing up in Philly, I wanted to know why these things was happening to our people and why we're in the condition that we're in, but nobody couldn't tell us at the time. And you know, it was always something in the back of my mind as a kid growing up. I wanted to know why are people in this condition. And you know, when he broke that down, Deuteronomy 28, you know, that opened my eyes up of me, you know, coming into this truth.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, you guys got a solution?
Yeah, we got a solution. We got a solution. Give me John 14:6. Don't go nowhere. We're gonna bring all the scriptures, brother. Okay. We got a solution. It's not about them.
I'm not going, y'all.
I understand.
Yeah. What's the solution?
I'm going to tell you the solution. Give me John 14:6. It's not Obama. It's not the White House. It's not Al Sharpton. It's not Creflo Dollar. It's not JT Fakes. We're going to tell you who's the solution. JT Fakes. John 14:6. John chapter 14 verse 6. The Holy Son said unto him, say it verbatim so he can understand. Jesus Christ said unto him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh to the Father but by me.
And seeing how this is why we're in the kitchen that we're in. And as me getting in the truth, you know, I was still learning from, I would say I got into it 96, maybe 97, 98, around that time. And I think at the time, that's when it was, which they call it One West. It was still one school at the time. And the brother was teaching me at the time when he was still living out here in California. So by him being in the Coast Guard, he ended up moving, he had to be stationed back into DC, Baltimore at the time. And, you know, but he was still in the truth. And the brother used to go back and forth because there was no YouTube, there was no, you know, no internet. So basically, how we was communicating by phone call, you know, and he would send me flyers and I would go over the flyers, you know, and he was telling me, yeah, they got a school in Philly. I'm like, what? So when I used to go home, take my vacation, you know, I would go home to Philly, and at that time, like I said, it was one school, and I think, and I knew out that at the time that I wasn't going to leave what I know, because I know this is the truth, that it fits our people to a T, what happened to our people. So when all that went on, you know, when the school had split up, and I was like, well, what's going on? So, you know, at the same time, I'm contacting the brother, like, hey man, what's going on back there? You know what I mean? And, you know, he didn't really tell me much, but at the same time, I still held on to the truth. So roughly like around, I would say, you know, 2007, 2006, 2007, that's when the whole YouTube came on, and you know, watching brothers on YouTube and seeing the video tapes that I did have when I was going back home, and you know, watching all these brothers that was speaking. Like, not only that, but for that period of time, watching everything unfold. But not only that, but bringing it up to 2007 and seeing how brothers was teaching, but at the same time, I was still learning, like I'm still learning today. And watching brothers' demeanor, how they treat each other, you know, and one day, like I said, on YouTube, I seen some young guys that was out there teaching out there in Berkeley, very young guys, you know, probably roughly, you know, my son's age or maybe a couple of years older than my son's at the time. And, you know, like anybody else, was trying to find out a little bit more information. I ended up, they were teaching out in Berkeley, and I went out there to Berkeley and run into, you know, a couple of young guys that was out there speaking, but at the same time, there was no order. You know, they wasn't teaching how they're supposed to be teaching, you know, calling women bees and all that stuff. But, you know, that's the way that I, as far as didn't see brothers back home in Philly the way they were teaching. Okay, so everything was, like I said, was they were teaching out of order. And me and this brother, I hooked up with Shemaiah Wine, and he was also out there. So me and him were like the two oldest brothers that was out there at the time. And you know, me and him exchanged numbers, and at the same time, we was probably roughly a year, if not probably a year, with these guys at the same time. And but like I said, there was no order about them. They wasn't teaching how we supposed to be teaching the people. And you know, they still out of order today, but they're not teaching the people how is teaching the people who we call Christ. So like I said, to this day, we still going out there teaching what we're supposed to be teaching, and you know, trying to build something out here, but at the same time, you know, trying to build with other brothers that's humble out here, that's pushing the truth. You know what I mean? So, like I said, for me, like I said, I sat back and I just observed and watched all these different camps. You know, how they start doing their own thing and their own doctrine, but they're deviating away from what the Bible is saying. So, like I said, I just sat back and watched. I just thank the Most High at that time that I didn't jump right in to the school in that situation. Even though I got my information from the school, but at the same time, it wasn't, to me, they wasn't teaching the humbleness according to the scriptures and teaching the people, you know. And you know, so that's a little bit as far as me being in this truth about that. And like I said, it's not about me, you know. It's about teaching the Most High's people.
Obayira kauna kunte furu musokoi ola abefo kiye jene yake yuda dogomuso la ne Ruben dogomuso ne Simeon dogomuso ne Levi dogomuso ne Dan dogomuso ne Neftali dogomuso ne Asher dogomuso ne Issachar dogomuso ne Zabulon dogomuso ne Shelatinamso ne Benjamin dogomuso